Did you want to introduce yourself or?
I'll introduce myself through here.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Keren. We'll slide over this one.
Okay.
Sit down.
So, because I'm from Tel Aviv, I thought, and this is a book about a city called, we're talking about this book. It comes in 2 volumes. It's called Third City, which refers to the 3rd largest city in Israel, Haifa. I'm from Tel Aviv. But because it's a city within a country, I thought I'd give you a few key scenes from the local illustration and comic scene. And most of the participants that you will see are included in this anthology. So the first...
Yep.
So this is the first key scene, which takes place, this is the cancellation of Illustration Week, which, oh, I'm sorry, I meant this one. This is the cancellation of Illustration Week. You can see all these people are cartoonists and illustrators. Illustration Week was something that gave a lot of funding to projects, and this is one of the big crises that we had when we lost support. Another key scene is the very first comic session, sorry, I meant this one. The very first comic session, comics course that was introduced to Bezalel Academy in Jerusalem, which I am a graduate of. Michelle Kishka introduced Franco-Belgian comics traditions to us. And this is another important cartoonist. She has a, oh no, sorry, I meant this one. She has a comics, Ilana Zefran, a daily political cartoon about cats, through which we see the news and everything through her protagonist, the 2 cats. Only one agreed to stay in the photograph, but she has 2. This is very important to our subject matter. This is Nahum Gutman and Jaffa riding on, sorry, I meant, no animals were harmed during the photo session, but I did fall down on the rocks. And this is 5 a.m. This is me. So Nahum Gutman is one of the first and most important painters that we have in Tel Aviv. Before Israel was a state, before 1948, and he was also very important to the contribution of illustration and comics culture, because he wrote and illustrated a lot of books for kids. And this is a very important figure in the local scene, a very political activist, advocating to stop the war, this is the creation of Shoshke Engelmeyer. This was a terrible day. It was 5 a.m. The water was freezing. Everything you see is not photo montage. It was an actual photograph that was shot. All of the people lifting him are cartoonists as well. This is the figure's avatar, and she walks around. She's part of every single protest. This is another cartoonist that is very prominent. She has a, sorry, I meant this one. A political column. This is one of the most important figures. This is a picnic featuring Dudu Geva, the duck. And Shoshke is also part of this scene. You can see my drift. Why am I showing you these photographs? But we're in a comics convention, but I'm talking to you through the medium of performance and comics. Because if you were in this previous session, you heard my very emotional speeches about I'm a publisher in Tel Aviv. I also work in a bookstore. I also really want to escape the hell that is the Middle East, and I'm sitting in front of you absolutely full of guilt and full of grief of what is happening and what our government is doing in our name, and just hoping that that the bombings in Gaza will stop. And I also I'm very close to tears, but trying to not cry. But this is, for me, the essence of comics. It's not the product, it's not the books, it's the community. And although these photographs were like, we were trying to describe a scene that happened in the past, I think that these are bloopers. The days we shot the photographs that you saw are the real thing. It's not the result, which is the photograph or the book. It is the community behind it and how we became friends through the process of it. So with that introduction, I will now go into can you open the PDFs? A short musical, Mission Impossible. A short musical, oh, by the way, you can pass these books that we're talking about. So this is one of the biggest anthologies that was published in Israel. It contains 500 pages and 72 creators, and the reason is because I'm a really bad editor and I can't say stop. So I wrote to everyone in 2022 to send me stories, and then I couldn't stop them, and they kept coming, and so I had to publish. I had to find a lot of money to publish this, but I really am proud of the result. There is one thing that I'm not proud of, which I think is important to say, but we'll go into that in depth. But just to get you into the mood of Haifa, the third largest city in Tel Aviv with the largest anthology, I will now give you a presentation of a short comic by a cartoonist named Shachar Kober, and it's called Downhill. It's about him, he works in the university, going from his house to in the mountains. It's a city which spreads from the mountain to the sea, to the bottom where he has to work. And I call upon us, the wonderful Tom Cruise franchise, Mission Impossible. Just checking, okay. That was his journey.
That was the first animation that we had, a live animation.
Oh, really?
The first of all.
I learned this method of showing comics by Bob Siporiak in the States. He does a thing, Comics Carousel, which you combine music. It's very cool. When Shachar sent me this comic to be anthologized, he asked me, I just have one question. Is the municipality of Haifa funding this book? Because if it is, maybe I need to change a few things. And I don't know if you noticed, maybe I should have pointed it out before, is the wild boars chasing him through the streets. So what happened is, can you go back to the... during COVID, you all experienced, you remember the good times of COVID before the wars and
Yeah. It's fun.
the war on Ukraine and like before when we had fun with masks. So wait, this is
divorce.
Divorce. Okay. So can you start from this slide with the animation?
From this one?
Yeah, start the presentation.
Yes. That's it.
Okay, so what happened during COVID is there weren't any boars in Haifa, but everybody stayed inside, all the humans, and then the wild animals started to invade the city, and boars started to invade Haifa. And when I say boars, well, you're in Poland, so no, some of you are not from Poland, but I mean like this size.
No. I mean, you have a small country. How can they be so big?
No, they're this size. They're like horses, and they're really scary. And they have families, and they took over the city, and it's impossible to get rid of. There's and so, but it's Haifa. So us Tel Avivians, the only real city, to be frank, we didn't believe it. We said you're just you're complaining about. So they're boars. They're cute. They're fun. And then I went there and I experienced it for myself, and it's very scary. And this anthology, I was giving it away as a prize for someone who guessed how many boars there were. It was most of the stories here were created in 2022. Full boar panic. I think every other story has a boar.
Yes.
And just to give you a small taste, I will now refer us to the wonderful music of my favorite music to play when I have a deadline and I need to wake myself up.
Okay.
Oh, Fortuna. Oh, by the way, 5 lucky people will get this poster. This was, remember I showed you the pink character, Shoshke? This is also a costume by him. This was shot in Tel Aviv. What we did is we stole a Tel Aviv trash can and we spray painted the municipality of Haifa all over it, because Haifa is an hour and a half by train and we didn't have any will to go there.
You were scared of the bars.
Yeah, we were scared of the boars, but also the train ride. We're talking Israeli infrastructure. It's not very good. No, that's a different.
Not that movie.
at the Ethnography Museum in Warsaw, and I saw the size of the boars in Poland, so it's not scaring me as much as it, but imagine you grew up boarless. That is how, okay.
We know they're smart.
Yeah. I think now to be a little bit more serious and political, can you I think this one. To be how much time? Okay. To be a little a bit more political and serious. So I've been doing comics professionally for 20 years, and I used to think that comics was a medium that was by itself political, because my books are all about unrequited love stories. That's what I like to write about. Not necessarily have political content, but I believe like the medium itself is political by being democratic, by accompanying all stories, by the community, by making it and teaching it. You're making the world a better place. But I think I don't know how much the war that is now happening in the entire Middle East. Like there are multiple fronts: Lebanon, Iran, Syria, civil war, Gaza, and Israel, it's been like that since I was born. We were born into it, but it's becoming overwhelmingly irreversible. We were born into some kind of hope, but things now feel like we need to be screaming every single day to stop it. So now I changed my mind, and I do think that our responsibility, when I say our, I don't mean ours collectively, I mean specifically mine. As a publisher, as an educator, as someone who has a bookstore, and as someone who talks about comics, there's something more urgent than love stories, which is life and death of innocent people. So I'm trying the boars with humor, but I also think that they simplify, like the biggest content that this book has is the negative space of what it doesn't have. And I was talking to Agnieszka before, and I think because you have to know the context in which these comics were published. They were published locally. And I think for us, and Nat can maybe attest as well, our everyday life is very political. In the bookstore, I'm being political all the time with the types of books that I choose to present, to talk about, to argue with. At night, we go to protest in the streets. We see news all the time. So I think something in common with a lot of creators is that this is our chance to breathe a little and talk about the horrors that we feel, but through metaphor. And I think that we're showing the metaphor of like the horror and the boars and like escaping. I think it's like seeing horror movies. It's a way for us to process our emotion in a way that we need a little bit of air. But when, for instance, in the context of explaining comics and showing the place to others, I wanted to show you some examples of like the difference between Israeli comics and comics that is journalistic comics reporting on Israel. For instance, the most prominent example I can think of is Joe Sacco, if you know his books, about Gaza and Palestine, which I have to say are also almost, it's not taboo yet, but I feel like the days of me presenting Joe Sacco's books in the window shop display of my bookstore, I have people ask me to take them down every day. We have to, and they threaten to burn the shop. And my colleagues in East Jerusalem also have a bookstore, and they got arrested twice. So I think, and I think the same, it's not only unique in Israel, I think it is happening in the United States as well. People are censoring books. It's not just about, it's also about LGBTQ politics. Things are happening all over the world where freedom of expression is very close to being censored. So this is something we're very aware of. So because this is Haifa, I thought it would be an example to start not with Haifa, but with Tel Aviv. And I just show you very briefly these slides that belong to a different presentation, but how the frame of the war always appears through a secondary frame. It's the secondary frame being the TV. This is also by Hanukkah. The title is 37 miles, which is the distance between Gaza and Tel Aviv. Like, this is how we feel all the time. This is a staircase. We are also, during the last Comics Connections that we had, we were constantly being bombed. People who were here in the previous sessions, we were on Zoom with this comics library. And then every like half hour we said, oh no, we're being bombed. We're going to the bomb shelter, we'll be right back.
And we're just, sitting here safely in Nova, in the library.
So this is...
we're 3 buildings away.
Yeah.
Find shelter.
Yeah, so this is this is also that I showed you before, the Dugeva. This is in Tel Aviv. So this is just how Israeli comics is part of the urban environment and how it's depicted. Tel Aviv is a very strong Bauhaus influence. You can see like the Bauhaus fountain, the Bauhaus houses with Shoshka's character. These are like performances. This is another very prominent Israeli who is cartoon is also part of the anthology. His book, you can see he's sitting on a slide. Oh, I brought my telescopic spoon. So he's sitting on the slide. This is about him being called to serve in the army, the reserves, and because they don't have enough bases. There's a war. A lot of grown men, 40-year-old, 50-year-old men have to sit in evacuated kindergartens to be assigned their role in the army. So this scene is about them. This is a duo that is very activist duo in Tel Aviv, and they don't have a child, but they call themselves the parents of Greyheart. Greyheart is a cat. And the cat gets drafted to the military when he turns 18, like every Israeli citizen, and he refuses. So they escape into the sea. And you can see they depict themselves naked. It's like to do with, they want to evade the grid. They don't like the institutions. It's about protesting. And so just showing you a bunch of, these are news reports. These are how bombing Gaza looks like from above, very detached. It's all critical of how we feel. This is very, 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 what you're seeing is extremely racial children's book. Another fun thing to know about Israeli comics, an important thing is that while American comics, the superheroes, Superman, Batman, they're adults. In Israel's legacy of comics, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the superheroes are children. It's because most of Jewish people are immigrants after the Holocaust. They came to Israel, and their parents didn't know Hebrew, and they had kids, and they always had, they thought the kids were the ones to lead the new country. Now we see it with critical eyes because we thought the child is the innocence that we have of taking over a new land, and in the lens we have today, there's no innocence at all about it. This was a complicated situation from the beginning, and we only got to see it through our side and not the other, and it's planted very, very deep roots of hatred towards anything that is not Jewish. So it's very problematic, but a lot of comic books, and I think most cartoonists that I'm showing are critical of the things that I'm explaining. They address this. So this is a comic about a superhero from the settlements, and it's also a parody of American comics, the way that when they punch someone, they have a very big speech, this is for my parents, and it's unrealistic. Okay, so just one last example. So this is Joe Sacco depicting Gaza. And you can see how almost realistic the style is. And on the other hand, Ruta Modan, who is one of the most prominent cartoonists, Jamilti is, my love, my beautiful, in Arabic. This is also a political story of someone kissing someone who is supposed to be her enemy. It's actually, I'll tell it because it's a great story. It was during the suicide bombings. So this is a suicide bomber who bombed a cafe in Tel Aviv. And at the same time, she broke up with her boyfriend in her car. And she slams the car shut and she leaves. And she walks into the cafe just as it explodes. And she's so like, all she can think about is her love and how mad she is, and she finds a dying person and she gives him this romantic kiss, and then later it turns out to be the person who bombed the place. So I just want to show, but what I want you to show is the style. And I think her style also, this is another book depicting Tel Aviv, but it really evokes Nemo, Little Nemo and Winsor McCay in like this dreamy, layered pastel colors. And I think it is, we live our reality, and when we create as artists, our job is maybe the way we see it, even subconsciously, I don't know how consciously I see it as a reader, take the story one more step, so it's not just documenting our reality, which is documented anyway in the newspapers that we read and everything that we do and speak, but also bringing a story that may change the mind of someone because they're reading it through an emotional narrative. And that is like this difference of style. So with that in mind, one last very important reference to urban depiction, and then we'll go to Haifa, is you may have heard about this film. It was about another kind of massacre that the Israeli army was responsible, but in Lebanon. They massacred they didn't massacre directly, but they were complicit in just allowing a massacre to happen in a refugee camp in Lebanon. And it's called Wasl Bashir by 2 Israeli creators. And so this is about a recurring dream that someone with PTSD from the army has. And in the movie, this is depicting him walking from the water towards the Lebanon seascape. But as Israelis, we're not allowed to go to Lebanon. We're not allowed to cross the borders. So what he did was he drew Tel Aviv. And it just shows you, Tel Aviv is representing Lebanon, and just shows you how close we are and how tragic it is that we have the exact same environment, the exact same seaside, but we are apart through war. And one last example, I think it is important, even though I'm not leaving any time for. But
you still have time.
Okay, it is. I think the context is very interesting. Ruta Modan. It's just another and Edgar Kurt, the author. I think you might know Edgar Kurt because his books were translated in Polish.
He's very
popular. One of their earlier collaborations, and it just shows my point about if you read these books, they're very personal and not very political. And I think this is a running theme in Israeli cartooning, and this is a very good example that shows why. Because we were all born into war from our birth. The only thing that has significance, the only building or piece of land that has significance is where blood was shed. So we walk around Israel and there's plaques on buildings. This is where this battle occurred. And this is where this spy lost his life. And this is where the brave soldier, and this is like the martyrs. And that's why it's so hard to find peace, because everywhere that blood was shed, people won't let go of. And this is a story about Ramat Gan, which is a very small suburb city peripheral of Tel Aviv. And they make fun of Ramat Gan, which has nothing special and no war happened there. And the mayor of Ramat Gan is expecting a visit from the president. And he's like, where do I take him? What will I show him in Ramat Gan? There's nothing to see here. And at the same time, a boy who lives in Ramat Gan loses his beloved dog, gets run over, and he buries the dog in his yard. And the mayor of Ramat Gan simultaneously decides to put a fake plaque saying that this yard is where a fake battle took place to take the president. And the scene ends where the president gets parks. The child is seeing it through. This is the fake battle, and the child is seeing it. The president stopped the car and place flowers on the fake memorial, but his dog is buried here. And so the child is so moved that the president himself decides to pay respect for the dog. And I think it's a beautiful example. Okay, so now, moving to just show you bits of the book, and now I can, this one?
Yeah, that's
okay, so the edit.
I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll just flip through this and I'll just say one thing. So black and white because it's cheaper to print. The editor and designer of the book is a cartoonist named Joel Cohen. I have two things. I want to also Anat to show her book. Anat is here, is also part of this anthology. And I think so Haifa has a very unique topography. So a lot of creators really, you can kind of see how this.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so scary.
How like the portrait of the city comes through via fantasy or via abstract and via real places, but you can kind of get a walk around the city. Mm-hmm. And the reason I said there's one very big problematic thing, and I don't think you would notice it if I wouldn't have pointed it out, because it's something that I think as an Israeli creator, it just sits on my conscience. Is that Israel, Haifa, and I want to get to Anat's story actually to show to them. Anat is yours, and the other one, the red.
I don't know yet.
Can I open the red book?
Yep.
I just saw them today.
I don't even remember which story is in which one because there's so many. Yeah. So. Haifa, I think, has a very diverse population. Oh, this is a Transformers. Transformers Falafel Wars. Has a very diverse population: Russian, Arabic, and Israeli, and people from Thailand, and anywhere in the world that you can think of. But the thing that is, I think, very missing, but it can't be any other way, is there's no Arabic or Palestinian representation in this anthology. And the reason is it's a lot deeper than I can mention. This is Anat's comic, by the way. It's maybe the only comic that has the multi-languages. So she includes Arabic and Russian and Hebrew. I think when we criticize comics through American lens, diversity means every voice that has something to tell about a specific subject has to be represented, because we want to be able to get a full picture, and we want to be aware not to repress voices. In this specific case, the context of including Arabic population live in Haifa, I think if you would ask, the majority would self-identify as well as Palestinian, even though they have citizenship, but it's not just about citizenship, it's about a much bigger and more complicated history. I think that when I think about including those stories, it would be more to do with whitewashing this anthology or virtue signaling, and by including the stories, it won't do them justice. It would actually wash them over and not give them the stage they deserve. And it would be just good for me as a publisher to signal diversity, but it normalizes the situation. The situation is so dire and so the repression is so real and so urgent that I think the lack of it is more pointing and more signaling about there is a problem and we need to fix it quickly. We need to do everything in our power to make it right, and art is not like, we call it aletena, which means fig leaf. It's not a fig leaf that we can just put over and glaze over it. So it's a very, I don't even know myself what to do, except support through, support financially by donating to Palestinian-owned bookstores, and that's as much as I know now how to do. It's a question. It's an ongoing question. So I just have to mention it because I think it's important when you're looking at this book. So I just want to show you some things that are really interesting about this anthology. This is called Shavasana, and it's the opposite of the comic that I showed you, the downhill one by Shachar Kovar. This is going uphill. The anthology is divided into mountain and sea stories. This is the mountain stories. And Shavasana, if you do yoga, you know it's the death pose, the corpse pose. And it's about someone from a richer area of Haifa going to their yoga class on top of the hill, and she's very fit, and she can go up the stairs briefly. And at the same time, another man is climbing up the hill, and when she gets there, she does her yoga Shavasana pose. When he gets uphill, he dies from heart failure. It's just the contrast of we're walking in the same streets, but it means so different. There's such a difference between your own story. One of my favorite stories. Sorry, am I? There's no time for. Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah, maybe I'll go to questions and then I'll show you. I'll finish with my favorite story about Haifa.
Okay.
So it will take 3 minutes.
Do you have any questions, maybe, since there's a lot of us here?
Before I forget, I also brought free cards and posters. Yeah.
So, any questions?
Or should I just?
I'm not even sure where to start. Because there is a lot happening in the anthology. There is a lot of stuff that you talked about. And I was wondering about representation and assimilation as well, because I don't know how you imagine having so many different people. We can make it bigger. So many different ethnicities in one country, in one city, without each of them assimilating a bit. Maybe it's a very Polish perspective, because we have a long history of assimilation, also for the Jewish population in here, right? So maybe it's just me thinking from this mid-Europe perspective, and I also don't know the answers, and it's so scary. It's okay not knowing the answers when we are in here, it's very scary not knowing the answers when you live in it, right? When you live in the question.
Yeah, I think again it's a assimilation. You mean keeping the cultures separate?
Keeping some common culture.
Yeah.
That would be towards everybody would gravitate,
yeah.
right?
We have actually, while I'm talking, I want you to also look at Anat's book, which is also about Haifa, but very, very different. So I have a very sad answer. The Jewish diaspora is not just, we think about the years when the Jewish state became a state, the 1940s, after World War II, from Eastern Europe, but the Jewish diaspora is from, there's a thing called, which is hard to explain to someone who doesn't live there, but there are Arab Jews, which means Jews that are from Arab countries, Iran, Tehran, Iraq, North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Eastern Europe, and Ukraine, Russia, and also communities from India. They all exist. It's what makes Haifa very great. It's what makes the food amazing. But the sad answer is that this is a question that was troubling our leaders, our prime ministers, since we had to establish a state in 1948, which I think is also around the time that Polish history, modern history started. So they needed to create a unification. And usually, also, this is something that I grew up as a child learning it differently, but now as an adult I see it in a different lens. Unification is always against a shared enemy. And luckily for us, with parentheses, we have many enemies outside. And the kul hituch, the melting pot, is a term that is most identified with the military. And until you're 18, you live in a bubble, and your surroundings are pretty much heterogenic to you. If you're if you live in the central Tel Aviv, you may get more access to better education. If you're from the periphery, it's harder. Also, transportation is harder. There are people who grew up on kibbutzes, and then when you are drafted into the army at 18, you encounter everyone, and you become blood brothers, like literal blood brothers, because you fight together on the battlefield and their bonds are formed. But these bonds are very traumatic, they're unhealthy, and they're just thinking about it makes me nauseous. And I'm not saying it out of my own innocence, because I was part of the army as well. I was an air traffic controller until they fired me, because who would give me the job of navigating fighter jets through the sky? Like, that's nuts. Luckily, no disaster occurred that I know of. So this is something that we have to do a reckoning with ourselves of what is our identity, and we're asking it now. I think any one of my colleagues, especially if you're an artist, we're thinking, have left Israel during the past 2 years. I think more than 50% of my friends left back to Europe, where we are fleeing the country like sinking, like rats from a sinking ship, and our identity is it's falling apart. The society is crumbling, and I think that's also part of the reason that the war is happening. Like right now, I think no one sitting in this room can say this war is justified. It's absolutely not. And the reason that the government, but it's not, I'm saying it because I'm Israeli, but I think it's a global issue of we're hungry for war, because that's the thing that unites people in our government's eyes. It's a very sad and horrible and very flat answer, but unfortunately I think this is the answer. Of course, I don't want you to come out of this thinking, oh shit. There is a lot of beauty, and there are different forms of unity, like comics. There's artists who are able to create magnificent things, and we are able to connect through culture and food and the diversity. And I think when you look through at the end of these pages and you look at these styles, there's still stories and there's still worth in us. We have things to tell, we have beauty to tell. There are things that are very emotional. I think I'm leaning into answering about war out of my own, to clear my own conscience. I can't help it. It's all I can think about. Yeah.
You try to create like safe spaces with art, with the bookshop, with comic connections as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also, I remember last year, and it was very much a bubble where everybody, it is a bubble, it is detached from the world, but it's safe. And it's good. It was very emotional. It was very touching to do it with you and with everybody in here.
Yeah, we started the Comic Connection projects. We'll have more sessions of last year. It was before the war started, but the day was October, and the war started on October 7th. And I called Alexander and I told him we have to cancel
the actual meeting, the actual sessions.
We have to cancel this project, but then everybody in Yale was part of it. We said, no, we want this to happen despite of the war. We want to sit and draw together because we need it. And really amazing thing that happened through Comics Connections, it was only supposed to be for 24 hours, but we ended up doing it every single week. It's still going every week. We meet on Saturday and we draw together. Like, it really made a difference in our lives.
That's why we make it, right? Like, that's why we do that stuff, to make a difference, to make home for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you cannot change the world, but you can keep people close to you.
Yes.
So, do you have questions? Perfect.
I have a question concerning the Arab population, because you said that there are no Arab artists in this anthology, and to give some reasons, but don't you think that the Arab population of the Palestinians perceive comics as part of Western culture, and that's why they do not tend to like this sort of artists, or as far as I know, also depicting people, for example, is forbidden in Muslim religion.
Depicting what?
People.
Depicting people or objects.
In Islam,
in Judaism as well.
Yeah.
Judaism is against depiction. I have two answers to this. First of all, I teach at the Academy of Arts in Bezalel, and Bezalel does have a lot of amazing, very talented Palestinian students, and so I do know artists. I'm just out of.
Can I just add something?
Yes.
So there are a lot of comic and illustration production in the Arab world. A lot. Very interesting, very fascinating, from Lebanon, from Syria, from Egypt, and from Palestine as well. So it is not true that this is an art form that they don't engage with. Even though the origination of comic books might be American, it has since been taken up by many independent movements to tell independent stories, specifically because, and I agree with Keren on this, that it is a more, I don't know if the word is democratic, but it is a more available art form, that you can do it quite cheaply, and you don't have to, you can reach populations that you wouldn't otherwise, because you can reach them through images, not like writing a thesis. So first of all, there is a really large production in the Arab world, Palestinian and otherwise, of these art forms. So that's just
and there's a lot of comics, amazing comics that we carry in our bookstore that is created by contemporary Palestinian artists. We have it in our bookstore. it's separate because of for me, this is a decision that I made. I don't want to whitewash it. I don't want to say I am giving, and also I feel like there's a tension that it's hard to explain emotionally. I'm like finding myself lost for words, but I understand that there's a resistance. I'm everyday communication and collaboration, but this type of collaboration signifies that everything is okay. And what we want to say is everything is not okay, not because we don't want to, is out of respect.
I can maybe also help.
Yeah.
So a lot of Palestinian creators, and completely understandably, don't want to publish under an Israeli publisher or with Israeli funds.
Yeah.
So even though we are individual people, the publication is under Tel Aviv, meaning it is under Israel. So even if we as independent persons, we cannot be divorced from the state that we are under. So a lot of Palestinian creators choose not to participate in collaborations like this because they want to maintain independence and they want to tell their stories under their own rights and possibilities. I mean, and so this is also a choice on both sides. And I know from my point of view, when I used to live in Israel, you of course want to collaborate as much as possible, but you also have to really respect the fact that they don't want to maybe collaborate with you. So, and this is what Keren is trying to say. As a publisher, she has a greater responsibility than just an individual person. And she can maybe coerce some people to publish, because publishing in the end, if you're a young student, you still want
Which
to.
ones do they choose? I mean, because my artists become, do they publish in other countries?
Yes. Or they publish under Palestine, under the rule of Palestine, with funds that don't go to Israel.
There's a very good shop called The Educated Bookstore. You can follow them on Instagram. They are based in East Jerusalem. They are our colleagues. We try to have as much, like a lot of the books that they recommend, we try to bring them as well. And they also import books by creators all over the world. The Lebanese comic scene is amazing, but I did want to say that you are correct in saying, but this is true to any society, even, for instance, the Orthodox Jewish scene is a scene entirely of its own, and it's a completely different bubble. And also, I think people, this is true because people are looking outside and it's always black and white, and they say Palestine, but Palestine has its own. There are the Muslims, of course, very strict religious, and they don't. But it's like any society. They're the secular ones. They are the artists. There are people who are more open to like the publishing scenes, and
there's diaspora.
There's Palestinian American diaspora doing amazing work and amazing books. Unfortunately, as I said, as a bookstore worker, I'm finding it more and more difficult. If like maybe 5 years ago, I was able to put these books in the display in my window, at this point in time, whenever I put a book which even has Palestine in the title, we get threats. And our colleagues in East Jerusalem not only get threats, they are arrested. So things are very turbulent. And I told Agnieszka and I told Anat that for me it's also too much. I don't want to publish anymore because I feel like it's too big for me. These are questions that I really am thinking about them every day and I can't answer them. But I did want to say that I teach sometimes in the academy, and you can really see a difference between the work created, that some students who live, the two students in the same classroom creating for the same thesis project, living completely separated realities under the same roof. One is able to like be more escapist and write about art, and the other is living a disaster, a personal grieving, and sometimes even though they're students and there is a talk and discussion within the classroom, the work itself is so, if it was merged together, it would lose its power of voice. For instance, one student writing about a fantasy place, for one student it could be a land of croissants, filled with croissants, with a beautiful comic, by the way. And for another student, the fantasy place is pre-1948, Tantura Beach, destroyed by war, and she can never get back to it, and this is where her ancestors are from. So one person's fantasy is another person's destruction, and it's not just this one-sided. It's also it's double-sided. It's very and for me, all I want is to connect and bring peace through art. And it breaks my heart that I don't have the answers.
Yes, I do realize, of course, that the political situation in Israel has much more chance than in Poland. Yes, and of course, even though in Poland there are also a lot of conflicts with different groups, etc.
Here the division is much deeper.
Yes.
We have time for your favorite story.
Okay. Okay, so
which the C or
the files.
The files? Oh, okay.
I made it.
That's the files.
Oh no.
Yep.
Okay, so I need you to do some voices. No, we don't have time, so I'll do the voices. Okay. Usually. Okay. So remember, this is an anthology. My instruction to people are write a story about Haifa. This person only went to Haifa once in his life. And the story is called How I Lost My Driver's License. It is by Omer Porat, and this is a story about Haifa. One day, I got a ticket while driving in Haifa. I waited a long time to get my driver's license back. The police is checking his driver's license, and waited, and waited. This is Mishteret Israel, Arabic, Hebrew, English. The Israeli police. And waited. Until, listen bro, we kinda lost your driver's license. But don't worry, if we find it, I will call you. 2 weeks later. This is back home in Tel Aviv. Ring ring. Hello? What's up, Omer? It's Yossi, the officer who lost your license. Guess what? We found it. It was in my pocket the whole time. Ha ha ha. The end. I thought that was hilarious.
I also love this one, but on the south side, it is about power, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it is about imbalancing power, which
yeah,
is, and the way it's being told, it's just crazy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stories about. Wait, can I go back to the blue?
Yes.
Blue one.
The blue one.
No, the red one.
The red one.
Yes.
That's the red one.
Okay, so.
Wait, I'll make it bigger.
I just want to show you like something very important in Israel is the food. This is a positive answer about the diversity. and like the multiculturalness of Haifa is it means that we get to have great food. And this is falafel is like a big thing of what is the best falafel. And this is a comic about the falafel wars. Every falafel place in Israel is either called King of Falafel or Falafel Kings or some kind of variation of King and Falafel or the best falafel. And this is about a child. She's standing in the middle of two falafel stores, and each vendor is trying to seduce her to come to his stand. And she created like this Transformers version of the Falafel Kings. Each falafel stand transforms into a robot, and the innocent kid gets caught in the middle of the war. So it's maybe tying back to the thing. So the stories, the theme of like the innocence being caused like harm through war and conflict is like in every single comic. That is the theme. And I think because we're doing it like more for ourselves to tell each other stories than like something, sometimes you just need a little bit of escape or humor, but you can see that these are like topics that are very part of our psyche.
Yeah, and you can hear that also in Edgar Keret's stories, which are very popular, or used to be very popular. I don't know right now because he doesn't publish new ones. I mean, no new ones are published in here, but the topic was also there. We're at the time, and I think the people from Hungary are not here. Where are they? We have a meeting. So thank you, Keren. Thank you.